Hello and welcome to a very interesting video idea. This was suggested by Hi, I'm Cool NLYC, or it's NICY, whatever. Regardless, they suggested, what if Logan and Jade weren't in Season 4, Carnival of Chaos? And I really like this idea because obviously these are our finalists, so they have affected a lot of stuff. Even in Episode 1, they both have huge implications to what goes on. So without them, it's definitely going to be very interesting. Now, I will say that obviously with just 16 people, it's going to be impossible to fill out all these episodes. So I thought about just having some of them be non-elim rounds, but instead I decided to simply remove Elephant in Your Corner and what was the other one called? Sorry, it was called Pit Stop. Because nothing really happens in those as far as I remember. Nothing that doesn't or that can't happen in other episodes. So they have been removed. In this universe, they always plan to only have 16 contestants on this season, and they did not ever come up with those. So yeah, let's just start with Come One Come All, because even though this is episode 1, there is still some major things that happen here. And the first major thing is who wins this challenge. Now, originally, I think that Jade and Logan didn't really actually change all that much in these challenges. So I think that we'd probably still we'd probably still stick, rather, to the red team winning both of their challenges, because there was 2 challenges this episode. There was the one on the roller coaster as well. And that one, same, just neither of them really affected anything there. But we come to who gets nominated, which is the main thing that would change this episode. Because obviously Isabel still gets nominated for the blue team. But for the red team, they originally nominate Jade. So who do I think they're going to nominate now? I'm actually going to go with... Just looking around, I don't think it'd be Spencer. It's definitely not Amelie, that's for sure. Would it be a Vibe Tribe member? I feel like it'd honestly be Diego. I feel like he's the most likable by his team because everyone likes him in the beginning and really throughout the entire season. I don't think Diego made like any enemies, not even Spencer. So I'd say that Diego is probably the one who gets nominated now that Jade isn't here. Which brings us into Down and Dirty. Now, Down and Dirty would be a very interesting episode because in Down and Dirty, it starts with Jade and Isabel agreeing to have Jade get the flint and steel, as well as, or I think it's just flint, but whatever, as well as a clue to an idol, while Isabel will get an idol, and then they'll lie and say that it was a competition for some flint. Well, in this version, I don't think Diego would agree to something like that, because I don't think Diego would want to lie. So instead, I think that Diego would just take the survival supplies, while Isabel would take the idol and just hide it, and then Isabel would make up the lie that, without telling Diego that she's going to, Isabel would make up the lie that it was just a supplies competition, and sadly Diego won because Diego's way stronger than her. And I think that her entire team would buy it, as they do buy it originally. The only one to not believe any of the lies is Amelie, and Amelie's on the team with the non-liar. So I do think that that'd be pretty accurate. Now, one sad part of this episode is poor Alicio. With no Logan, Alicio he'll never find his spark. They never have that talk. And when we come to the actual challenge, I think that, again, Jade and Isabel don't really, or dang it, I cannot think straight. Jade and Logan don't originally change this challenge all too much. So, Ted is originally the one that proposes the dudes vote together as the red team wins this. And obviously, I think that still would happen. But Ted also tries to convince Linda, since she's on the bottom of her alliance. Now, originally, surprisingly, I originally thought that Logan flipped because he always flips, but what originally happens here is Linda wants to leave the door open to being on either alliance so she eliminates the least social camper, that being Alicio. However, I don't think that would be the case here because she still is on the bottom of her alliance, and also the guys, if they take out Alicio, the guys won't have the numbers anymore. She won't be open to working with them, or else she'll just get out. So I think that she would betray the girls' alliance immediately. And who do I think that she would go for? I think that the guys are smart enough. Alicio not as much. He's just been keeping to himself, being kind of depressed with no Logan to cheer him up and have that good talk with him. I think they'd go for someone they think they can beat in a tie. And realistically, I think they would probably go, not knowing anything about anyone yet, for Isabel. But, as we know, Isabel has her idol, and I think, although, would Isabel even use it? Oh, I don't think Isabel would use it, though. Actually, no, because I don't think that the girls know until Linda originally. The girls didn't even know that she changed the vote to Alicio, or at least Anastasia didn't. So I don't think that the girls would know about Linda flipping. So I guess Isabel would not use her idol in time, and I think that the four of them would go for Isabel, while the four girls weren't originally going to go for Alicio. I believe they were going to go for, was it Ted? I think it was Ted, if I remember correctly. Let me check real quick. But regardless if it's Ted or somebody else, I think this would be a good episode to establish in this universe, to establish that Isabel is not your average nun, and that she would... Here, let me check this. I don't understand this lady. First, she pitches Ted. Yeah, so it was originally going to be Ted. So I believe that Isabel would beat Ted in this, which would establish that she's no average nun, and that she'd be a force to be reckoned with, even though she is a nun of all things. So then we move on to Hot Mess Express, which would not be named that and would not have the same clickbait thumbnail because Logan isn't here. Now, Alicio is very depressed at this point, as always, or Sag still doesn't have his mark, his what is it, inspiration back yet. So that still holds true. But I think that, what else? Oh yeah, so the immunity totem. The immunity totem is still on the island that Jade finds, but there's no clue to it, so nobody's found it just yet. And nobody's even really been looking for it because their team is on high morale after winning the past 3 challenges. On the girls' side, or on the blue team side, the girls' alliance is feeling great. And I think that this is where Linda would try to ease back into the alliance, but I don't know how well that would really work. Now, as for the challenge, I think that it'd go pretty similar. Ted didn't really help too much. And even though Logan does get the kiss, which does save the blue team here, I think that without Logan there, there's not really a thing that the blue team could get that for Alicio that would make them lose, because Alicio is the person that's here that wasn't here in canon. So yeah, I think that Alicio would still probably take his, and the blue team would still probably win. And as for the red team, obviously Jade isn't here, and because of that, the Diego Spencer thing is going on, but without any Jade to help Spencer out. The Vibe Tribe is still strong, and then Hannah and Benji still also exist. But I think that overall, Amelie still would be voted out over, like, Spencer, for example, in Hot Mess Express. I don't think that would change. So then we get to Jumping the String. And this is still where I think Linda and Richard, I think they would have, or would they even have their remarks or like that conversation that would make Linda say that debatably, or not debatably, I almost said debatably. No, definitely the homophobic lines towards Richard. Accidentally is what I meant. I don't think so, because I think Linda's trying to distance herself from the two guys and trying to really make her way back into the girls, which, as we know, Marissa, just like originally, would want to let her back into the alliance, but Isabel, who had to fight for herself, would not want her back in the alliance, and neither would Anastasia. So yeah, and I think Natalia would probably not really want her either. So Marissa's kind of sad about that. Now Jade and Diego originally have stuff that still would not happen. But I think that originally the person or the team who loses is the blue team, and the reason they lose is dang, do I think they'd still lose this challenge even with Alicia here? I think Alicia would have a lot of percentage, or not percentage, a lot of what's the word, accuracy. Where did I get percentage from? Accuracy as a hunter, but I don't know if the blue team still wins. I think from a story standpoint, it'd be better for the red team to lose this challenge, and the blue team to win this challenge. So I'm going to go with that. And how I think this would play out is I think this is, just like next episode originally, I think this is where Spencer would want to cut out Diego. But I don't think he'd be able to. Because the Vibe Tribe obviously wouldn't want to get out Diego. They all like Diego. Hannah becomes like actual buddies with Diego at this point. And Benji, I think, is better with Diego than Spencer, but I think that Benji would actually be who Spencer goes to, because as we know, Benji and Spencer do have their anime in common from the motel episode last season, so I think that he would try to get in good with Benji. And originally, whenever Benji and Tristan were talking, a few episodes later in canon, Benji was willing to work with Spencer after Spencer had already done some more evil moves, while Spencer hasn't really done anything like that at this point. So I think that he would make the alliance with Benji before Benji can get in too good with the others. And I think that Spencer would also spend a lot of his time looking for the idol, because I think overall the people on his team would want to get him out. And I think with Benji's help, and Hannah being distracted by talking to Diego too much, they would get this immunity idol. And I think that at elimination, Spencer would play the immunity idol, and just because like they're both smart and they both know where it would be, or like at least they can assume where it would be. So I think that Spencer plays this idol. Even though these 5 people vote for Spencer, these 2 votes go for Diego, and Diego's eliminated, really hammering in the hate for Spencer on his team. Then we get to Husk Courtline, which would not be called that because there's no Husks left on the island. Honestly, thankfully, because both the quote-unquote Husks, Logan and Diego, are the only 2 bad characters this season. So now this is a very interesting thing for me. I think that with Isabel backing Anastasia, Marissa, who hasn't gotten nearly as close to Anastasia, this is the first episode where she really gets close to Anastasia, would start distancing herself from these 3, because these 3 are all on just get Linda out train. And Linda has been really trying to be nice and trying to get back in good with this alliance. So I think Marissa would actually consider flipping on these people, and going with these 2, and then obviously the guys who have kind of just been there. Alicio has just been trying to find his passion again, and I think Richard is also just existing. As for the red team, Benji would still make his idol and show it off to Ivy and Jade, but I think this is originally the episode where Hannah and Benji really start to bond. But I think that now that Benji's clearly with Spencer, you know what I mean by with, I don't think Hannah would even want to associate with them. So I think that after showing it to Ivy and Jade, Benji would just be like, hey, Spencer, look at this. And then Spencer would have a similar reaction to Hannah, but try to genuinely help him gameplay-wise. Not because he's like wanting to be a super big friend right now, mainly because he needs Benji to stay, because he's already in a really bad position after taking Diego out, which he admits was an emotional move and not a good gameplay move. Now, Logan tries to get in with the girls originally this episode, but obviously that wouldn't happen. And I think in this timeline, Richard would still go nuts for the blue team and would still win for the blue team. So in this timeline with no Jade, do I think anyone could flip to keep Spencer in? Honestly, I don't. I really don't think so. I think that Spencer would be eliminated here, and Benji would be really pissed because in his eyes, he would view Spencer as one of his first real friends and someone who he really got along with. Because Spencer did kind of view Benji as a bit of a pawn, but he did genuinely relate to him in a few ways, and they did genuinely bond a little bit. With Benji being the only one understanding the whole thing between Diego and Spencer. So, yeah, the answer went even worse than it did in canon for the actual shippers, with both of them just being evaporated immediately. But then we get the tough act to follow. Now, this is the musical episode, and I think that this would be an interesting one. I think that they'd perform 2 songs for the red team, and then I guess 2 songs for the blue team, so there'd still be 4 songs. And I think we'd probably get Hannah, Benji, and Tristan, and then just Ivy and Jade, and the dragon would be a prop. And then Jade wouldn't be with Hannah, Tristan, and Benji. And then as for the blue team, we would still get Isabel with Richard and now Alicio. And Alicio would make the sets, which you would find fun. And then the only one that'd be unchanged would be Anastasia, Natalia, Marissa, and Linda. Although, actually, you know what? Do I think that would happen? Because I just realized they wouldn't be the same. Because the girls don't like Linda, and Marissa really is starting to flip on the girls. So I actually think the new thing would be Anastasia, Natalia, and Isabel. And Marissa would refuse to go work with them and instead go with Linda and the guys. So I have no idea how that song would go. That'd be a very weird song with Marissa, Linda, Richard, and Alicio. But I do think that this would probably be the episode where Linda and Richard struggle over the remarks and end up maybe getting along towards the end of this episode, next episode. Regardless, Ivy still screws it up for the red team, giving blue team the reward. So then we get Taking the Line. Now, Taking the Line in canon is Tristan's episode where Ivy and Tristan bond. And while I do think that happens, another thing I think happens is Benji getting in good with Tristan and Hannah. See, this is weird because I think that this would be the episode where Benji and Hannah start to bond a little bit, but just not nearly as much as they do in canon. Because in canon, the main reason they originally became friends is because they were on the bottom together. And I think at the beginning of this episode, they would feel that way. Both of them would feel that way, with the Vibe Tribe really dominating this team. But after Benji gets in good with Tristan, Hannah would feel really excluded, and I think would just kind of be cooked if they lost. But do I think they still lose this challenge? If I'm honest, this is the episode, where Ivy gets her shoulder dislocated. I think that still happens, and I think that the red team still gets cooked. The red team is really not doing well in this What If. So I think that would still happen with Hannah being eliminated. Now, when is the episode where Spencer and Isabel swap? I genuinely don't remember. Is that this episode? Or is this... Yeah. This is the episode where Marissa is taken out. Wait, no, is it? No, it is. Okay. Whew. Okay, I'm looking. Okay, Spencer is swapped to the other team. Well, in this, I think that the actual twist would be that one blue team member is forced to go to the red team. And because of that, I think that it just works for the storyline if the blue team loses this challenge. I know that doesn't happen originally because Ivy and Jade were throwing, or at least Ivy was. But with them not throwing, and with the 4 of them all being kind of on like full chemistry right now, with Benji and Tristan locking in as well, I think that the red team would win this. And as for the blue team, who do I think would get eliminated here? Well, I think that obviously Anastasia, Isabel, and Natalia would want to go Marissa. But I think that the other four, with Linda and Marissa still having their opening up moment at this point, and with Linda opening up about how she feels with her kids at home, just viewing her how they view her and calling her a bitch, which she says in this episode originally. I think Marissa would also tell her about the army stuff, and they would genuinely bond a lot more. But I think that with that, along with Richard and Alicio, they would have to take out Anastasia, Natalia, or Isabel. And I think that from a gameplay standpoint, Linda would probably convince the other three to go for probably Isabel, because Isabel's closer to Natalia than Anastasia is, and that would just take because we know Natalia and Anastasia originally hate each other, which will probably get explored a lot more in season 5. But I think that because of that, they still don't have a lot of chemistry compared to Isabel with Natalia, who literally, they're such good friends. They're in the intro together. So they take away that little bit of glue between that, so that alliance can fracture even more, even though they're already the minority. And I don't think that Isabel would expect it. I think Isabel would expect Anastasia to have to be the one taken out, because Anastasia is probably the most hated on her team right now. So even Marissa doesn't like Anastasia. So I think she wouldn't play her idol on herself, sending her to the red team. Whoops, I did not mean to do that. On Rocking the Boat, though, nobody's actually eliminated. Whoops. Okay, so going in circles. Logan obviously doesn't punch Spencer because neither of them are here. But what I do think happens is that Isabel still has her idol. And while no one else has an idol, I think that would definitely be a huge plot point this episode. Another thing that's going on is Marissa and Anastasia bond a lot this episode, but that obviously doesn't change, or that obviously does change because they hate each other, so, or at least dislike each other. So I think that still happens with Marissa and Linda a lot more. But I think it would be good this episode, since Alicio hasn't done shit, for Alicio to get his passion back. And I think he'd get his passion back with a talk with probably Marissa. I could see Marissa motivating Alicio and doing something similar to what Logan did in canon. If not Marissa, maybe Richard, to give Richard a major supporting role, because Richard really is a support character, and it wouldn't really work for him to be a support character who hasn't really supported anyone. So I think it would actually be better for Richard. And Marissa is originally voted out by Linda in this timeline, and while I still think the red team does lose here, the blue team does lose here, I don't think it's going to be Marissa, because I genuinely think that Linda cares a lot about Marissa by this point. And now that Alicio has his passion back, he's genuinely ready to compete, and Richard is already just about the same. So I think this would be the episode where, fortunately for some of y'all do hate her, Anastasia would be eliminated. Anastasia had a very sad arc this time around. And you know what I just remembered? I just remembered when is the episode where they have someone get eliminated and then they have to come back the next episode and fight whoever gets eliminated that episode? I don't think that's happened yet. Yeah, because that's when Linda's originally eliminated. So I don't think that would happen yet. When is it, though? Is it this episode? Appetite for Destruction? Because we're getting really close to the merge anyway. So I would assume that it is... Yeah, because Linda's exiled but not voted out. So I think that the red team is really just on top right now. And I think that they'd still win this challenge due to the whole Ivy Jade being horny for each other. That still all happens. Oh, speaking of, now that Tristan's felt a little left out of Ivy and Jade, that still happens in canon. Benji and Tristan, I think they both have gotten together by this point, or at least maybe not gotten together, but they're both like they both have crushes on each other by this point. I think that this would be one of the main ships of the season now that there's no Logan, Spencer, Diego bullcrap going on. So, which would be way better. And also that Anastasia and Marissa is gone. I think this would just be what happens. But that Benji and Tristan would be doing a lot more together. Not in that way. Now, for who gets exiled, that's obviously going to be Natalia, who would still do her fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you to all 4 of her team members. And while she is exiled, let's see if she'd be able to take out who's next. Because in polls apart, Marissa is strong as shit. So I think that she'd really, really help her team. I do. But do I think that she'd help her team enough to win? I think for the plot, it'd be interesting if she did. Now, because of that, the people over here, the 4 people over here, would... Yeah, the 4 people over here would be alerted that, hey, whoever gets voted out today still has to fight against Natalia. And I think these 4 would vote out Isabel. Now, Isabel has her idol. I guess the 5 over here, but I was only really talking about these 4 because those are the 4 that aren't voting Isabel. But Isabel still has her idol, and obviously Isabel doesn't want to sacrifice her or give herself a chance of being permanently eliminated so that she can, like, for sure send home Natalia. So I think we'd get a pretty villainous move here where she would go for the person she truly believes is the weakest on the team, and I think she would go for Tristan. So she idol plays Tristan out, and I think that Natalia would win this fight, getting Tristan eliminated, which is very unfortunate. But yeah, this brings us to our merge, because Elephant in the Corner is not a thing that happens in this timeline. So in our merge, we've kind of got three sets. We've got the Vibe Tribe, with Benji now being an official member of the Vibe Tribe. We've got Marissa, Linda, Richard, and Alicio's very weird alliance. And we got Isabel and Nat, who are kind of disliked by everybody at this point. In fact, not kind of. They definitely are. But before that, we have Rescue Island. And Rescue Island, I think, would play out pretty similarly outside of Alicio not being here over Spencer. I mean, like, there's a lot of things. I think the Linda and Marissa stuff doesn't exist, so I think their cook would probably be Hannah. I think Anastasia could probably have some conflict with, like, I don't know, somebody. She's Anastasia. She could figure it out. But I think the main 2 things that would happen in this episode is we'd still have the Emily stuff, with Tristan also being a part of that, so they still get to keep their thumbnail. And then, not Ted, Diego and Spencer. They'd probably make up in this episode, but not make out, if you know what I mean. They'd just become friends in this episode. So they would end their arcs being just simple friends. But then we get to In Deep Water. Now, In Deep Water is a very, very influential episode for Logan and Jade. An insanely influential episode. Except Logan and Jade aren't here, and because of that, obviously, we're not going to have Logan drown, or Jade almost let Logan drown, even though Logan wasn't going to freaking drown, and Jade was in the right, but whatever. Now, one person would be automatically disqualified from winning immunity just because they wouldn't be able to compete, since there's an odd number of people right now. So, Ivy and Jade, Marissa and Linda, Richard and Alicio, and Isabel and Isabel and Natalia all work together. You know, there was actually twins. Back when I went to public school, there was twins named Isabel and Natalie, but I haven't seen them in forever. But this is Isabel and Natalia. So Benji's kind of just automatically disqualified from winning the immunity here. Now, I don't think that anyone would freaking drown this time. Who originally wins immunity, though? I mean, it's Jade, right? Jade and Richard. Yeah. Well, in this timeline, I think that Ivy would be the communicator, while Jade would be the swimmer. Marissa would be the swimmer. Linda would be the communicator. Richard would be the swimmer. Alicia would be the communicator. Isabel would be the swimmer. Natalia would be the communicator. And I think that it just comes down to who I think would be the best here. And I think this would be a good episode to show how much of a power couple Ivy and Jade are, because they'd be perfectly in sync and be able to win the challenge pretty easily. I think that the only people who would come close to winning is Linda and Marissa, because they still lack a little bit of chemistry at this point. Not as a relationship, but you know what I mean. But Marissa is a freaking insanely jacked woman. She's easily the strongest physically left on the island. So I think that Marissa would come close but not win. So with Ivy and Jade getting the immunity, this is kind of a problem for Nat and Isabel. And I think that there's genuinely not much they can do, sadly. I think this would have to be the elimination of one of them, but it comes down to who. I think I think Ivy, Jade, and Benji would want Isabel gone. But I think these four would want Natalia gone. And I think that these two would not really know who to go for, but I guess they'd probably try to convince somebody that Marissa's the biggest threat on the island. So they need to go for her, but it wouldn't really work. So I guess 2 votes Marissa, 3 votes Isabel, and 4 votes Natalia. Natalia's eliminated. Now, this is when we come into kind of a Spencer situation with Isabel, where basically I believe that everyone would start being like, oh, we can eliminate Isabel at any time. It doesn't really matter. So they'd start focusing on the other big alliance. And in this timeline, this is the episode. Oh yeah, this is actually a great episode for this, because Isabel wins immunity in this episode. This is the horror episode. And I think that just out of sheer grit and determination, the same stuff that got her through the original tiebreaker against Ted, she would be able to win the immunity in this with no help from anybody, which would force these teams to work together. And I think that Isabel would realize that it's a lot easier to fracture this than this. So she would try to convince the others that it's a power couple and they need to take out either Ivy or Jade. And while they don't like Isabel, I do think that Linda, especially, who's like a very big game player, she would be like, you know what, that's a very smart move. So let's go ahead and get out. I think they'd rather get out Ivy, which just leaves Jade and Benji, who in canon around this point don't like each other, but that doesn't happen. I think that it would be Ivy. Would it be Jade? I mean, actually, you know what? I do think Jade is a bit of a bigger threat than Ivy, and Ivy and Benji already have their "it's a fucking stick" thing, so there is a little bit more there. I actually do think it'd be Jade, now that I think about it more. So Jade is eliminated in Fright Night. Okay, so I just realized a few things. Also, by the way, we're about to do our returnee episode, so I brought everyone back up. First, this is going to be a freaking chunky video, like a really big one. So, I guess you're welcome. Hi, I'm Cool NLCY. And then also, I said originally that I cut out pit stop. That was wrong. I cut out hit the brakes. So, my bad. That's the original Final 4 challenge, if you don't remember. But as for Up in the Air, I want to talk about who would help who. Well, I think that it'd be pretty obvious for our first 3, because Ivy would help Jade, Isabel would help Natalia, and Benji would help Tristan. But after that, I think it does get a little more complicated. Also, 2 people, I guess, 2 of the eliminated contestants can help each other. Which, I think that Linda would want to help Ted, maybe? No, who would want to help Ted? Probably... Oh, no, I'd say probably Richard would want to help Ted. As for Anna... Honestly, I don't think anyone would really want to help these other few people. So I think that we'd end up just saying that Marissa, these three would all be like, no, I don't want to help. What the heck is going on? I don't know if y'all can see what just happened on my screen, but that was really weird. But I think Marissa would sigh and be like, fine, I'll help you. Which would probably start a little bit of shipping here. But we'll see if she even wins. Linda would probably end up going with Hannah. And actually, no, I think Linda would want to help Amelie because that's another one that she thinks she could use as not only a meat shield, but a huge strategist. And Alicio would go with Hannah. So I think that we could have a pretty awkward thing with Spencer and Diego, or at least just show how good of just straight up friends they are. But I don't think they'd win. Instead, I think overall, the people that would win this are just, this is purely for plot, right? Because you can't really like predict this that well, and if you did, it would take too long. So for plot, I like the idea of Natalia. Well, no, because Natalia literally just got out. I like the idea of Amelie coming back still. So Amelie does return for all you Amelie lovers. But as for, actually, let me not do that yet because it's going to screw everyone else up. As for the other one, should I bring back more Trenji? I mean, everyone loves Trenji. I would also love Ted back, though, because he was literally the first boot. So I guess the first two boots would come back. That'd be pretty interesting. So we'll put the returnees here. Now, here's what I think would happen. We still have our 4, right? With, let me move Amelie and Isabel back over here. We have these 4. And I think now they're like, holy shit, this is so free, because now we have Amelie and Ted as well. But while Amelie would be perfectly fine with getting in with this group of 6, I think Ted really wouldn't want to work with Linda, since Linda caused him to get the embarrassment of being the first boot. So I think that instead he would try to form a crack, and I think the crack he could form would be with the other guys and the girls. But we'll see if that happens immediately, because first we have Dead Weight, which this is a very interesting challenge originally. I don't really know what it would be, but like what all the specific questions would be, but just like an original, it'd be a lot of good stuff. So this is originally Natalia's vote out episode, and obviously that's not the case. Who wins? I'm trying to figure out who won immunity. Oh, Logan won immunity in canon, and then Anastasia, and then third was Spencer. Fourth was Marissa. I guess we can do Marissa, because the freaking top 3 aren't here. So Marissa wins immunity, and I think this is where Ted makes his move. He goes to Isabel, and they make their alliance, because obviously they share a common enemy. Or at least Ted's about to be the enemy. But I think that Ted is trying to drive a wedge between Alicio, Richard, and then Linda, Amelie, and Marissa. So I think the first thing he says, because he's in good with Richard. So the first thing he says to these two is that these 3 are easily just going to knock out these 2 after they get Ivy, Benji, and Isabel. So I think that they would be like, yeah, fair, but also they'd still wouldn't flip. Now, this is where I think Ted lies a little bit. And Ted would be like, now, I don't even think this is how it works in canon, but that would just help the lie even more, be more villainous. Ted would be like, well, I've been watching the show. They've been releasing the episodes. And they'd probably be like, really? Already? And then Ted'd be like, yeah, I was watching it on the island I was on. And while they'd both be like, that doesn't really make sense, he'd be like, it had Wi-Fi or whatever, right? And Linda, in Confessional, has said that she finds Alicio to be a really weird and that she thinks art is stupid, and among other things. And he'd probably convince Richard that Linda had been saying stuff that she only apologized to Richard so that Richard would be good with her, and that she thinks that Richard and all his all the people like him are weird and stuff. Obviously, that's not Linda's actual thoughts, but that's what Ted tells Richard. So this obviously pisses off them. But Ted's like, just don't go off to them and tell them about it. Just wait till elimination. And now, obviously, Marissa has immunity here, but that doesn't really matter because I think this is where Ted also goes and grabs Ivy and Benji, who are a little desperate, and is like, hey, just vote Linda tonight. I promise you, if you do, she's going home. And they're like, shit, okay. Because after Isabel was gone, they were pretty sure they were next. So, in a very shocking, at least to Linda, 3 to 6 vote, Linda is eliminated by Ted. And I think that this would be a amazing elimination and really prove how locked in Ted can be and how good Ted is. And I think Ted would focus more on strategy, like this game's strategy, than poker strategy, after seeing that poker strategy got him the first boot. So that's what he would have spent a lot of his time on the island for. I'll just leave the returnees thing right here. But then we have... Wait, what the heck is going on? Oh! I just realized something, guys. I'm so sorry. I just realized something really funny. Hold on. Whoops. I forgot to put them there for helpers. The weird thing just happened on my screen again. Oh my gosh. That's very embarrassing. There we go. I was using up in the air. I was so confused. Okay, hell of a deal. This is originally Spencer's episode. Obviously, that's not the case. Now, in this, I think this is where another episode where I think Ted would shine. And I think that this is always going to be a hard episode to really talk about because it's so complex. The challenge, at least, is. But I think overall, what do I think happens? I think Amelie would probably want to ditch Marissa at this point. Because as far as she's concerned, now they're on the bottom too. So Amelie would try to find cracks over here. And is there much? I think really the only crack she can find is that a lot of these people are still not big fans of Isabel. So Amelie would try to work on getting Ivy and Benji back on their side. Now, she would still keep Marissa in there as a vote, but like Marissa and Amelie aren't bonding or anything. These four are just kind of voting together. The only two that really have a bond in these four are Ivy and Benji, who have gotten a lot closer in this timeline now that both of their partners have been eliminated. Ivy's boyfriend and Tristan's... let's just stick to partner. I have no idea what that would be called. But overall, I think that when it comes to elimination, what are the actual things? Because there's obviously the idol. Is it the advantage? I think this is where Jade gets her advantage, right? Yeah. Who do I think gets the advantage? I think this would probably be... I think I'd like it if Marissa got the advantage. Well, or not Marissa. It'd probably be either Amelie or Ted, which are the ones that just came back. We just had Ted prove himself, so I think it'd be nice for Amelie to prove herself. So Amelie gets the advantage. And because of that, she's able to convince Ivy and Benji and steal Isabel's vote. And when stealing Isabel's vote, that means that in a 5-3 vote, Isabel is eliminated. So, yeah, this kind of really makes Amelie and Ted Emily's. Emily's the host? Enemies. Oh my gosh, what the heck? Okay, Thief in the Night. This is a very good episode because we have our big FNAF animatronic. We have Jackie from Secret of the Mimic. I'm sure like a few of you got that reference. So this is originally the episode that Marissa is eliminated due to Isabel's beautiful tiebreaker. Amazing tiebreaker. I loved that, even though I would have rather Anastasia getting eliminated right there, even though I like Anna more than Marissa, but whatever. It still was a beautiful tiebreaker and was hilarious to watch. I was actually tweaking the first time. It was awesome. But I think that in this timeline, who do I think would win immunity here? Who wins immunity in canon? In canon, the person to win immunity is not showing up anywhere. Hannah wins, and Hannah has been gone for a bit. Yeah, she's been gone for a bit. So I think that in this timeline, I'm trying to remember what happens in this episode. It's a lot of stuff between Logan and Jade bonding. Like a lot of stuff with a lot of people that aren't here. Because our final group of people right here, literally none of these people were here originally. Oh my gosh, except Marissa. Literally not a single person that was here in canon is here right now except Marissa. And Marissa came back originally and did it in this. This is nuts. I did not realize how insanely changed this has happened. Most of the pre-mergers are the mergers now. Most of the mergers... Oh my goodness, this is nuts. This is awesome. Thank you so much for this idea. This is amazing. This is the kind of stuff I want. I've been getting a lot of good ideas, but this is awesome. Okay. Anyways, I guess I'm gonna just give the immunity. I'll give it to Amelie gets hit by the falling stuff, and Hannah wins the immunity because she does not go to save Amelie. I remember that. So Amelie still gets hit by that in this canon. And I think this is where Marissa would sacrifice her, because she's the fastest, so she'd probably be able to win immunity. She sacrifices her win to save Amelie, which would make Amelie actually care about Marissa. But I think that because of that, and Ivy and Benji just being a little bit behind, we can give Richard this immunity just to show a little more of him being a actual physical comp threat who actually deserves making this far, since he hasn't been nearly as much of a support character this time around, with his only real supporting role being with Alicio. So when it comes to elimination, it looks like it's going to be 4-3 Ted, and I think that the way to really hammer this in would be to get Ted out, because Ted played a amazing game for Linda and Isabel, but I don't see a way where he doesn't get out here. Oof, I think this would be a good time. No, actually, that would make better TV later. You know what? I am going to do a little bit of bullshit, but not any bullshit that Odd Nation wouldn't also do. I think that this is for just the plot to be better. I think that these four would recognize that they all are like, okay, we are not wavering. We are sticking as a final four pact. So instead, we know Richard is the comp threat, so we'll get out Alicio to keep his morale low. Then he'll lose a challenge, and then we'll get out him. I think that'd be good, because I have more stuff planned with Ted that I just came up with. And I also... I think that Alicio, being the first boot and all, doesn't really have too much going on, or originally being the first boot. So I think that Alicio's taken out here. I just think this would make for way better TV. So Alicio is taken out, and like clockwork, during pit stop, the exact same thing they said, or at least that Amelie came up with, comes to fruition. And this is originally the episode... What is this episode? Jade wins this episode. Oh yeah, for learning about the other contestants. I don't even need to think about the original plots of the episodes anymore, guys, because literally none of these final 6 were even in the merge originally, outside of one person who came back. This is actually the most changed I've ever seen. It is crazy how influential Logan and Jade are. This is great. I love this. But I do think that, just like Amelie said, Richard is eliminated here. And I think that Ted would obviously be very desperate at this point. So he would originally have been like the ringleader, the guy who was on top whenever he came back, but now he's the underdog. And in taking new heights, I think that he's got a good experience with balls. Whoa. I meant with he's a poker player, but I'm sure he does all kinds of gambling. So he's messed with balls enough. Whoa. So I'm just gonna say that holy shit. I'm gonna say that he would win this again out of kind of an Isabel way. of showing his pure grit and determination to not embarrass himself anymore and to make sure that he gets that money. So he wins the immunity here. And now these final four kind of faction off into two teams where Amelie and Marissa recognize that they need to take out these two if they're going to take out anybody, because if they don't, then obviously these two have a way closer bond, will just win. So I think that them knowing that Ivy got her shoulder dislocated, she's a little weaker, but they also know Benji's kind of just a wuss and kind of just sucks at a lot of things. So I think they probably go Benji, actually. So in two votes Benji. I think that Ted would have to vote as well. 2 votes Benji, 2 votes Amelie, because she's less of a threat than Marissa. No, because I don't think they'd be expecting a tie, because they obviously know Ted has to vote. So I think they would go Marissa, and I think they'd spend the entire time having or trying to convince Ted, which would really fracture these two and these two from wanting to work together, because they would be so obvious about it. Well, I think that Ted would want to go with the more emotional players. So he would go with Ivy and Benji over the huge top threat and the strategic mastermind. And I think that Ted would go with them on the basis that they don't go Marissa. Instead, they go Amelie. Because what he says to them is that Amelie doesn't even deserve to get that far, because she wasn't even here the entire time. And they'd be like, wait, but you weren't either. And Ted would be like, yeah, but I'm screwed. And they'd be like, fair enough. And then he'd also probably say some other incriminating lying stuff similar to what he did with Linda, just not to the same extent. And I think that because of that, they would be like, okay, we'll do that. But the real reason is because Amelie is the one who's really foiled his plans and screwed up a lot of his game, so he wants her gone over Marissa, even though she is the comp threat. So in a 3-2 vote, Benji gets 2 votes, Amelie gets 3, and Amelie is eliminated here in 5th place. So then we get to Dunces and Dragons. Now, this originally was a Final 5 episode. Now it's a Final 4 episode. And for this, I think that it'd go pretty interestingly, where I think that everyone would work together, or these 3 would work together, while Marissa would be on her own. Well, how I think this would work would be really good for some arcs. And I think this would be Ted would use Ivy and Benji as his pawns, making them do everything for him, and kind of just not being that much of use to them. He'll still do things here and there, but yeah. And both of them would end up getting killed in the VR challenge, of course, not in real life. They'd end up getting killed along the way, which would lead him to the win. And while he's about to sit on the throne, Marissa would bust through, completely screwed up and beat up, but she's Marissa, and in this timeline, she's still not going to join the army, but she's still a freaking badass, right? And she's able to brute force her way through everything, because she's not someone who would know anything about D&D. She's just brute forcing being a beast. Meanwhile, on the other side, Benji was probably the one who knows the most about D&D, probably plays D&D, so I think that Benji would be the main help before getting killed, of course. It'd probably be Ivy's killed, then Benji, and then Ted wins the immunity here. I could even see a world where Ted just kills Benji straight up and gets the immunity for himself, or is about to before Marissa comes in. And Marissa charges Ted, starts beating him up because she knows it's a game, but her heart of gold, even though it's a game, wouldn't let her kill him. So Ted takes the opportunity to grab an axe and chop her head off, and go sit on his throne. Now he wins immunity, and even though Ivy and Benji hate him now once more, at first they just didn't really care about him, disliked him, but didn't care about him. Now they hate him. they still have to vote somebody. And Ted, who's really cemented himself as the villain of this season, he eliminates Marissa along with these two because they are just so close that they're not going to vote for each other. So 3 votes Marissa, and it sends Marissa home feeling like a failure. But then we get the panel of peers where she's comforted a lot by Linda. And I think the main things that would go on in this episode is Tristan would love how, or Tristan and Jade would be bonding a lot over how their partners have made it so far. Meanwhile, I think a big thing would be Linda comforting Marissa, but also Linda and Richard becoming friends again, because Richard would hate Linda. Again, it'd be kind of a rehash of what happened earlier, but just a little more intense this time. So Linda would be super confused on why Richard hates him, or hates her, and obviously they don't actually see the show. Ted was lying. So Richard would be like, you know what you did, and Linda would be like, I really didn't, and they'd end the episode with Richard figuring out that he had been completely played by Ted, and now he, along with pretty much everybody else on the entire island, just by hearing what's happened with all the eliminated contestants, all the recently eliminated contestants telling everyone else, I think pretty much everyone on the island hates Ted by this point. So, yeah, everyone hates Ted. And that really matters for our people that were eliminated in the merge, which is, I think, everyone from Tristan down, right? Because, yeah, in Deep Water was Tristan, Fright Night was Natalia, Up in the Air was nobody. Wait, no, was it Tristan? I think it's Tristan down. If I'm wrong, whatever. But, yeah. So, we obviously get to Judge, Jury, and Executioner, because we skip, hit the brakes. And in Judge, Jury, and Executioner, I think that it's just Ivy and Benji trying to take down Ted, the main villain of this season. And do I actually think that it would happen? I think not, because I don't want a friendship finale of Ivy and Benji. So I think that it comes down to, also the vote would be really anticlimactic if just everyone voted to take out Ted. So I think that Ted would actually just force his way through the win, and he would win. Well, I guess it's not really brute force. They just have to jump off the thing and take a fearless photo. Which he has a poker face. Ooh, he has a poker face. I'm awesome. He has a poker face, and he's able to get through it. So when it comes to who I think would vote for who, let me take these returnees and just take them all out real quick. Bonk, 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 except actually not you guys. I don't remember. No, Tristan was a pre-merge boot. Yeah. So, boom, 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 boom. And then we'll say jury. And then let me bring them up here. Now, who do I think they would vote for? I think that, respectfully, Tristan and Jade would not go for the same person. They'd obviously go for their partners. It's voting for who they want out. Yeah. So Jade votes to take Benji out, and oh wait, no, Tristan's not one. Oh my gosh. Yeah, well, respectfully, Jade would want to take out Benji over Ivy, which I think Benji would understand. There we go. Now for Natalia, I think that Natalia, it just comes down to who I think she would like more, because she really doesn't care about either of them. She's just kind of a bitch this season, which isn't too far off from in canon, to be honest. I think that overall Nat would probably go, I don't know. Let me do some other ones first. I'm not going in order. I think Richard would go Benji. I think Alicio. This is such a tough one, right? I think Alicio would appreciate the art that Benji creates. Well, do I actually, or maybe he'd care about more of the musical arts. I mean, he isn't a painter, so probably that. Isabel would probably go Ivy. Linda would probably go Ivy. Amelie would probably doesn't respect the game of either, but truly believes that Benji doesn't deserve his spot here and go Ivy. Nat would probably go. Oh my gosh, I think Marissa would probably go. Oh wait, no, I just realized again. It's not who they're rooting for; it's for who they're rooting to get out, right? So Isabel's rooting to get Benji out. Boom, 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 boom. This is way too complicated. Oh my gosh, wait, does that mean we get a tie? Or does Natalia want to get out Benji? I think that Natalia would want to get out Benji. Yeah, I do. So, in this timeline, this is very complicated, but I think overall, I'm going to give the win to Ivy, which means that, let me bring everyone over here, except Benji, because he's eliminated here. It means that our final two is Ted and Ivy. Completely nuts. Our original first boot versus freaking Ivy. I don't know. Now, I can actually see a scenario where people would be satisfied with both wins. And here's what I think. What I was originally going to say is they wouldn't let the villain win twice because it was not well received with Rhea. However, they let the villain of Season 4 win because Logan was the real villain of Season 4 with this flipping. So, and to my eardrums. So, Ivy, though, does go through a lot this season, but she's not really the underdog, while Ted kind of was the underdog. I mean, he was literally the first boot, and how cool is that? You're a first boot, you come back, and you win it all. That sounds crazy, right? Well, Ivy, yeah, she has her stuff with the Vibe Tribe, but it really wouldn't even be nearly as good as it is in canon, because there's, like, she doesn't even get to make her offer to let Tristan live with her, or any of that stuff, which I think would happen in this timeline after the finale, after Ivy loses, I think, so that Ivy still gets a good win for herself. So I actually think, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to have Ted win this season. I think that a lot of the fans would be happy with Ted winning this season because Ted really did earn it. Yeah, he was a villain, but he wasn't like Rhea, who, by the way, I love Rhea, but I understand the hate completely. I just love her because she got out Jake and let Jake not win. But yeah, alright. The recording's about to cut out for a second time. This video is going to be over an hour long, maybe around an hour long. I might edit it down a little bit. But I really hope you all enjoyed. Again, massive thanks to I'm Cool NLCY for his or her challenge suggestion. If you want to have your own challenge suggestion, put it in the comments below. I will do it. Eventually, I'll get to the person's other challenge suggestion, which is what if Dan replaced Ashley in All-Stars. And I also have a few others, like if All-Stars was heroes versus villains, if Jade voted for Zade instead of Benji, if DC4 cast got another season, so among others, right? But if you want any for Total Drama and Disventure Camp, I'll try to get to them as quickly as I can. But I guess I'll see you next time. It's about to cut out. Bye!